Story Detectives, and welcome to week 4 of term 3, and this is our first video for this week's story, which is called Charlie Cook's Favourite Book. And I managed to get my hands on another Julia Donaldson story, also illustrated by Axel Scheffler. So far this term we've done The Ugly Five, Monkey Puzzle and A Squash and a Squeeze, and we're going to have another look at those three, so don't forget about those. We're going to look at those later in the story, but let's have a look at this book to start with. Now, you may be wondering, if you don't know the story already, what on earth could it be about? Because on the front we've got a boy in a cosy looking armchair reading a story, but then in the background we've got some aliens in a spaceship, a dragon, a bear, a pirate, a knight in armour, and a frog. Oh, and a cat. So I wonder what this story is going to be about. Well, in fact, it's about all of those things. And when we open it up, there's an interesting section here about how they got inspired to write this book, how Julia Donaldson and Axel Scheffler came up with the idea. So we might have a look at that later. And on the front inside cover here, we have a bookshelf with lots of interesting titled books on. And these are all things that will be referred to in the story. So we've got Shiver Me Timbers, which I'm assuming is something to do with pirates. Fairy Tales from Forgotten Island. The Bear O Annual. Sorry, that's about bears, not beer. Joust Joking, which is obviously something to do with knights. We've got a story here called Real Birds. So it's hard to read it on this side. Maybe I'll turn it around. We've got A Country Childhood. Improving Stories for Wicked Thieves. My First Encyclopedia, and Out of This World, a collection of ghost stories. And if you'll notice, the book ends here are both knights. So I think that's going to give us a clue as to what the story is going to be about. So here we go. Once upon a time, there was a boy called Charlie Cook who curled up in a cosy chair and read his favourite book. About a leaky pirate ship which very nearly sank, and a pirate chief who got the blame and had to walk the plank. The chief swam to an island and went digging with his hook. At last he found a treasure chest, and in it was a book about a girl called Goldilocks and 3 indignant bears who cried, "Who's had our porridge? Who's been sitting on our chairs?" They went into the bedroom and Baby Bear said, "Look, she's in my bed, and once more, she's got my favourite book." About Sir Percy Pilkington, a bold and fearless knight who told the dragon, "Wait, I'm not quite ready for the fight. You must hear this one first." And then his armour clanked and shook as he read aloud a joke he'd found inside his favourite book. Ho, 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 hee, hee, hee. About Rowena Redalot, a very well-read frog who jumped upon a lily pad and jumped upon a log, then jumped into the library, which stood beside the brook, and went, "Read it, read it, read it," as she jumped upon a book. About an oak tree full of birds. Each bird had built a nest, and they had a competition to decide which one was best. They chose an owl to judge. The winner was a rook, whose nest was lined with pages from his very favourite book. About a girl who saw a flying saucer in the sky. Some small green men were in it, and they waved and flew on by. She tugged her mother's sleeve and said, "Look, Mum, what I've just seen." But Mum said, "Hush, I'm trying to read my favourite magazine." About a wicked jewel thief who stole the king's best crown. Dr. Foster's painted galoshes. I never go to Gloucester without them, says a delighted Dr. Foster. But then got stuck behind some sheep, which slowed his car right down. The king dialed 999, and soon the cops had caught the crook and flung him into prison, where he read his favourite book. It says here, situations vacant. Governess required for Lady Mary, age 7. The child is slightly quite contrary. She insists on seeing aliens in the garden. A strict governess is required who can curb this vivid imagination. Apply with references to Lady Fotherington, the Old Rookery, Branbury Cross. So he read his favourite book about a greedy crocodile who got fed up with fish and went on land to try and find some other kind of dish. He went into a bookshop and he there grew even greedier while reading on page 90 of a large encyclopedia about the biggest birthday cake the world had ever seen. A team of royal cake makers had made it for the Queen. Cake, a mixture of nice things usually baked in an oven. It's eaten at tea time and on special occasions like birthdays and Christmas. The Queen's birthday cake, it took 6 lorries to carry the cocoa munchies for the Queen's birthday cake to the palace. The cake also required 4,276 bars of chocolate and 739 sackfuls of marshmallows. The special outsized cake tin was made by the royal blacksmith using 2,647 melted down horseshoes. Famous cake eaters. Britain's most famous cake eaters are the Bunn twins of York. At the age of 6, they became the youngest ever winners of the York Festival cake eating competition. Age 10, they had to be taken to hospital after knocking each other out while both reaching for the same slice of cake, and their dog ate the cake. The cake was so delicious that a famous spaceman took a slice of it to Jupiter. He also took a book about a ghost who glided round a castle every night, carrying her head and giving everyone a fright. She kept it up till morning, then she found a shady nook and put her head back on again to read her favourite book about a cosy armchair and a boy called Charlie Cook. Oh, that's the end. Let's just check the back here. There we go. There's all those books again on the back page. Now let's just check here. We have Charlie Cook sitting on his armchair, and in there and in his room we can see the pirates from the first story, which was the one that Charlie was reading about. And then there was the bears, I think that came next. And then was it the knight and the aliens and the king with the cake, when there's a spaceman, oh, and there's the crocodile. Wow, so all the characters there from the book. So it's a bit complicated, this story, actually, because it goes from a boy reading a book and then everybody in the book is reading a book about something else. So it's what we call a nested story, with one story sort of inside another. If you can imagine like a set of Russian dolls, each one getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and inside each doll is another story. So tune back in for video 2, and we will have a look at the worksheets. One thing, just before I start on the Word of the Week and the worksheets, I just want to show you one thing that comes up quite a lot here. At last he found a treasure chest, and it was in a book, ... So remember that ... That comes up on every section of the book. She's got my favourite book, ... We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Okay, bye.